She said she'd be late tonight. No explanation, no punctuation, just a simple message at 6:17 p.m. stuck at work. Might run late. Don't wait up. I read it twice, not because I didn't get it, but because deep down, I already knew she wasn't telling the truth. The words landed with no weight, like tapping an empty drum, sound without meaning. And I'd been hearing that sound more and more lately. She stayed late at the office often, or so she claimed. Team meetings dragging on, endless Slack threads, late drinks to bond, a quick visit to Sandra's. But the stories had started fraying at the edges, unraveling in quiet ways. Like the night she said she had dinner across the city with coworkers, but the car's GPS told a different story. Or the time she blamed a dead phone for not replying, yet her fitness tracker logged steps through midnight. I hadn't intended to confront her tonight. There was no plan to investigate. I just needed to see something for myself. It started with a small reminder, an old calendar notification. Her phone had once synced with mine back when we were planning our wedding. We left it linked like most couples do when things still feel easy and open. She must have forgotten. For weeks, the calendar had been empty. Until this morning. A new entry appeared. No title, no details, just an address and a time, 6:45 p.m. I tapped it. The address stirred something in my memory. I zoomed out on the map and then I saw it. It was near where he lived. The harmless friend. The one she always said was just a colleague. The one she joked reminded her of her brother. The man she never introduced me to. His name had started appearing more often in passing, wrapped in dismissive giggles, like I was ridiculous for even noticing. I didn't ask questions. I just got in the car. It took 25 minutes to reach the neighborhood. I parked a block and a half away, close enough to watch, far enough not to be noticed. The street was lined with tall oak trees and uneven sidewalks. Wind chimes clinked faintly somewhere nearby. It was the kind of place where porch lights stayed on and strangers offered polite waves. I killed the engine and waited. It was 7:03. She hadn't messaged again. I left the headlights off, cracked the window slightly. Spring clung to the air, cool and thick. A couple strolled by with a golden retriever. I gave a slight nod. They didn't pay attention. Just another parked car. At 7:11, she appeared. She stepped out of her car on the corner and straightened her coat, the one I gave her last Christmas. Her hair was down. She didn't seem hurried or nervous. She looked comfortable, familiar. And on her feet, those red suede heels. I knew them well. We picked them out together for our anniversary dinner. She saved them for special occasions. Never for late-night Slack chats. Never for Sandra. She walked confidently up the path and rang the doorbell. He opened it fast. Too fast. There was no small talk on the porch. No polite boundaries. Just a look between them. She smiled. He moved aside. She stepped in. And before the door closed, I saw it. Her hand grazed his as she passed. Then the door shut. I stayed there, hands gripping the steering wheel. Not angry. Just still. Empty. She didn't shout her betrayal. She whispered it. Carefully. Deliberately. And I saw all of it. She had no idea I knew. I didn't move. Not for a long time. I sat staring at that house with the light glowing softly on the porch, the curtains pulled tight. A motion light flickered every few minutes as the breeze shook the trees or squirrels darted through the garden. Inside that house, something was unfolding. A life she didn't want me to see. But I saw it. Not by snooping. Not by catching her in some clever trap. I was just present. At the exact moment she thought I'd be somewhere else. She said she'd be at work. She didn't mention the wine or the man she once dismissed as harmless. She didn't say anything about the heels she used to wear for me. At first, I thought I'd drive away. Pretend I hadn't come. Lie to myself that there was still something left between us. But some truths won't let you turn the key. They wrap around your wrists, keep you still, force you to feel them. The truth doesn't crash down like a thunderclap. It creeps in, second by second, glance by glance, until it's inside you, undeniable. At 7:38, the upstairs hallway light came on. A soft, golden glow. Domestic. Then it turned off. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror and didn't recognize the face staring back. No rage. No tears. Just a strange stillness. My body already understood what my heart hadn't yet accepted. The man she loved wasn't me anymore. That man was inside. I was the one sitting outside, in the dark. At 8:05, a delivery car pulled up. Pizza. The driver walked to the front door casually, like he'd been there before. No hesitation. No confusion. He handed off the food and left. Routine. A regular Friday night. Still, no message from her. That silence told me more than anything else. The heels, the address, the light upstairs. I was already gone from her world. She wasn't afraid of being caught. I wasn't even a variable anymore. At 8:32, it started raining. Soft at first, then steadier. I rolled the window up halfway. I didn't start the car. The rain smeared the windshield just enough to blur the scene. Her car, the front steps, the street lamp reflecting in puddles. She wasn't coming back out. I knew that now. That house wasn't just her hideaway for the evening. It had become something more. Her comfort. Her escape. She never imagined I'd check our shared calendar. She didn't think I'd show up. She thought I was still that man waiting at home, maybe making dinner, maybe nodding off on the couch, still trusting. That version of me no longer existed. And I didn't knock. I didn't call. I didn't send a single message. What could I possibly say? She'd written her chapter. I just hadn't known I wasn't in it anymore. So I watched. Quietly. Not like a man catching his partner in a lie, but like someone standing in front of a painting he used to love, seeing it one last time before it's taken down. At 9 o'clock, I turned the key. The engine came to life gently, like waking from a long sleep. I didn't peel out. I didn't look back. The rain followed me all the way home. I pulled into the driveway just before 10. The house looked unchanged, porch light dim behind the rain, front windows dark, and that same neglected plant by the steps drooping further into its slow collapse. From the outside, everything stood still, untouched. But I wasn't the same. I didn't get out right away. I stayed behind the wheel, watching raindrops trail down the windshield, each one blurring the world beyond, as if the storm could somehow wash away what I now knew for certain. There was no misreading, no space left for doubt. Her heels on a porch I'd never been invited to, the slice of hallway light on the second floor, the casual delivery of dinner, these weren't pieces of a puzzle. They were the whole picture. I let the engine idle, afraid not of the silence inside the house, but of what it would prove. Not pain. Resignation. The kind that creeps in long before you realize you've been abandoned. Her presence had been fading for a while. First in touch, a brush of the hand that no longer lingered, then in words, vague and worn out, and finally in body. She lived here, yes, but she hadn't really been here in weeks. Eventually, I shut the car off and walked to the door. My keys felt heavier than I remembered. I unlocked it and stepped inside. The air held a trace of lavender from a diffuser she'd plugged in days ago, trying to make the place feel warmer, maybe. But tonight, everything was still. Even the hum of the fridge seemed cautious. I dropped the keys in the bowl and slowly slipped off my shoes. My body moved like it was following a script I no longer believed in. Her bag wasn't by the door. No shoes. No note. Just the message from earlier, stuck at work, don't wait up, repeating in my head like a lullaby sung without care. I wandered into the kitchen and opened the fridge. The leftovers I'd made 2 nights ago were still there, untouched. She'd said she wasn't hungry. Then later that she'd already eaten. I had accepted those little lies without question. Each one chipped away at me, quietly and efficiently. I climbed the stairs. The blankets on her side of the bed were still smooth, untouched. She hadn't slept here the night before either. Another kind of silence settled over the room, the kind that whispers truths too long ignored. I sat down on the edge of the bed and looked at my hands. They didn't tremble. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. I just sat, hollowed out, waiting to feel something definitive, but there was nothing left to discover. All the answers had come hours ago, in a different house, behind a door I would never walk through. She came home at 12:27. I heard the front lock click, her keys drop into the bowl, the quiet sound of boots being unzipped. Her steps were cautious, like she wasn't sure if I'd be asleep or just pretending. She didn't say anything. She moved like a shadow, trying not to disturb the dark. When she reached the bedroom and saw me sitting there, she stopped cold. I didn't look at her right away. I just stared forward. Then I asked, calmly and clearly, "Did he feed you?" The words hung there, sharp but soft, like frost forming on a window. She said nothing. I turned my head to meet her gaze. She looked stunned, like a performer realizing the audience had been there the whole time. I spoke again. "I saw you. Parked a few houses down. You didn't even look around. Red heels, black coat, smile like nothing weighed on you." She took a step back, as if the truth physically knocked her off balance. "Say it again," I told her. "Lie, just one more time. Say it quiet, and maybe I'll believe it." She didn't. Because she couldn't. She just stood there, frozen, more shaken by my stillness than any accusation. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't pacing or demanding explanations. I'd reached the end of all that. Now I was just bearing witness. She stepped into the room hesitantly, as though the floor might burn her soles. Her face had gone pale. Her eyes searched for something to hold on to, maybe a cue, maybe a way out. I could see the gears turning. Maybe she'd cry and wait for me to hold her. Maybe she expected a confrontation, something chaotic enough to make this feel like a mutual failure. But I gave her nothing. No rage. No pity. Just the silence she'd been offering me for months, returned in full. Some stories end in shouting matches and slammed doors. Others dissolve with the hush of steady rain and the realization that the person beside you left long ago. This was the latter. She stood there, fidgeting, weight shifting from one foot to the other, the way she always did when choosing which version of herself to wear. The remorseful one? The defensive? The weary woman too tired to explain? I'd met all of them. I'd comforted and argued with each. But tonight, I was done dancing. I was sitting there, waiting for something I already knew wouldn't come. The air between us was still. Then, almost too soft to hear, she whispered, "Nothing happened." I turned to the window. Rain continued its steady descent, as if the sky hadn't tired of grieving. "Then why did you lie?" "I didn't. You told me you were working late. I was in." "You were at his place," I said calmly. "You wore those red heels. You set a calendar reminder for his address. You smiled like you'd been there before. And you didn't just visit, you stayed." My voice never rose. There was no fury, just a kind of hollow stillness, like the aftermath of a storm where the wreckage speaks for itself. Her hands started to tremble. "I didn't think." "No," I said, cutting her off. "You just didn't want to think. You wanted me oblivious, and I was, for too long." She wrapped her arms around herself, like she could keep her own center from unraveling. "It didn't mean anything," she said. "I let that linger in the air between us. That's the part that stings most, I replied. That you could walk into another man's space and feel nothing. That all of this, what we built, what I trusted, meant so little you didn't even trade it for love. You gave it up for nothing. She opened her mouth, but no sound followed. Her eyes welled up, but the tears held. Her makeup stayed perfect. This time, the act was controlled. I stood, walked past her, and opened the closet. I didn't slam doors or toss clothes around. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. Just a few essentials: shirts, jeans, toothbrush, documents. Enough. She followed, wordless, like a shadow. She didn't ask me to stop. Maybe she knew it was too late. In the kitchen, I paused by the table where we used to spend slow Sunday mornings. Her favorite mug sat in the sink, untouched. I wondered if she even remembered what it felt like to love without strategy. She leaned against the wall as I zipped up my bag, still hugging herself like she was trying to stay whole. "Where are you going?" she finally asked. I looked at her and said, "I've already left. You just never noticed." Something in her changed. Barely. Her breath caught for a split second. A tiny tremor in the stillness. "I didn't plan it," she said softly. "No. But you didn't stop it either." She looked away, and outside, the rain thickened, drumming against the glass like time urging me forward. I walked to the front door. The night was colder than I expected. She stayed behind me, framed in the hallway light like a figure from an old memory I no longer wanted to revisit. I turned back once. "I watched you," I said. "Parked across the street. Saw you choose him. You never looked back. So don't expect me to." Then I stepped outside. The street was slick, puddles forming along the curb. My footsteps echoed down the quiet lane, marking the end of something that had already unraveled long before. I didn't know where I was headed. I hadn't packed with a destination in mind. But inside me, where doubt and heartache used to live, there was only certainty now. Cold. Clear. Final. I passed by the hedges we once trimmed together, the mailbox she decorated every winter, the gate we painted one spring, hoping fresh paint could fix what we couldn't talk about. Behind me stood a house that once held our life. Now it was just a container for memories. Not love. Not anymore. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for the inevitable text. I knew it would come, some frantic message, a blend of regret and denial. "I'm sorry, I was confused. Nothing happened." But it would be static. I'd already heard the real story play out in silence. In the click of her heels on someone else's front porch. In the light flicking on for a version of her I no longer knew. There was nothing left to ask. Only a road ahead. I climbed into my car and sat there, listening to the soft rhythm of rain on the roof. I started the engine, but didn't shift into gear right away. My hands rested on the wheel, still. Somewhere nearby, music drifted from an open window, soft, aching, written for moments like this. The kind that knew both heartbreak and healing. I thought of the man I used to be. The one who stayed up late, who silenced his instincts, who clung to hope like it could somehow change the outcome. He was gone now. Or maybe not gone, just different. Tougher. Quieter. I eased into drive and pulled away. Slowly. Letting each block slip by, the weight of it all lifting little by little. Not gone, but no longer holding me down. I wasn't fleeing. I wasn't chasing answers. I was simply choosing to move on. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is leave without asking why. Because you already know. You saw it. You heard it. You felt it. I drove until the highway blurred behind me, eventually stopping at a roadside motel, the kind with a flickering neon sign humming secrets into the night. I checked in without much talk. The clerk didn't ask. Maybe he could see it on my face, the fatigue that comes not from lack of sleep but from seeing too clearly. The room was basic. One bed, a desk, a lamp, a mirror. I sat on the edge of the mattress, dropped my bag, and looked at myself. I looked like someone rewritten, not ruined, just changed. Betrayal doesn't always come in flames. Sometimes it's slow, like water seeping into the cracks of everything solid, until what you had loses all shape. Before lying down, I let myself think of her once more. Not the woman who stood in his doorway. Not the one armed with excuses. The one I fell for. The one who danced barefoot in the kitchen. Who read to me when I couldn't sleep. Who laughed like she still believed in wonder. I mourned that version of her. And then I let her go. Because love means nothing if it forgets how to return. And broken trust doesn't make a sound when it dies. But it never breathes again. So if you've ever sat in silence, hoping a truth wasn't what it seemed, if you've watched someone walk away without a glance, know this: you're not weak for seeing it. You're strong for not looking away. Stronger still for walking. If this found you at the edge of something that hurts, if it reminded you you're not crazy for noticing what they tried to hide, drop a comment. Share your story. Or just say, I saw too. There's strength in silence. And in letting go.